At Rubber Band, we empower each other through positivity, kindness, and practical advice. Join a community of thousands of peers who understand the unique challenges you face. Rubber Band. Company agnostic, low ego, high empathy, always supportive.
Are you tired of spending endless hours on traditional hiring methods? Fairgo.ai is here to revolutionize the way you conduct interviews. Our platform allows for real-time AI interviewing, giving you the flexibility to connect with candidates anytime, anywhere. By automating the matching process, we eliminate the need for manual input, saving you time and effort. And the best part? We're committed to promoting a fair and unbiased interview process by removing identifying information. Embrace the future of hiring with Fairgo.ai today so you never miss another great candidate.
And we are live. Welcome, listeners, to the first episode of Season 4 for the Rubber Band podcast, where I'm joined today by Vicki Carolan. Now, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I live and work on, the Wadawurrung and Dja Dja Wurrung people. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waterways. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I would like to extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome, Vicki, our Rubber Band friend, perfect guest for Season 4 launch. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. I'm really excited to be launching Season 4 with you.
Oh, and you must be even more excited because before we hit record, you told me that you've got a week in Bali planned soon. So
I'm very excited. I'm on. It's the countdown is on now. I am ready to go and have cocktail in hand very soon.
Oh, how lovely. And just some sun. I mean, we've got this early spring happening here in Melbourne, which is lovely. I'm just worried that it's not going to last.
It's a tease. The Melbourne weather is a tease. We get excited and then it goes downhill on us.
Absolutely. Well, look, Vicki, you've been such a supporter of Rubber Band, and I can't think of anyone more perfect to launch Season 4. And, you know, today I think I'd really love to get to know you some more and for our listeners to get to know you some more. We've had some amazing content with CXC Global, and you've been on panels with us and your team have joined. And today I think let's get to know you a little bit more. And I think the best place to start is to go back to maybe your childhood and growing up and where you're from, and tell me all about that. Tell me all about young Vicki.
Where it all began.
Yeah.
So my childhood. So I was born in Melbourne. We moved to Mansfield when I was, would have been kindergarten. Then we moved back to Melbourne in grade 2, and then back to the country in Alexandra in grade 4, and then back to Melbourne again after that. So I've had a bit of a mixed upbringing of city and country, and I definitely favour living in the country. I like the peaceful lifestyle and the down-to-earth nature of being, you know, in a regional setting. I love the sense of community, and I always will levitate back to that. I think that it sort of lends itself to, you know, supporting others and knowing everybody in town and walking down the street and saying hi to Barb and Keith as you're walking the dog past their house. And I love that sort of country lifestyle. So that's sort of been me. I'm one of 4 children. Mum and dad are my biggest, you know, support network, and they're my best friends to date. They actually have a house next door to me here in the country. So, yeah, I'm very close-knit family, very normal, average upbringing, just a little bit of movement around between the city and the country.
How beautiful. And Alexandra's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. My one of our close friends, Jackie, her dad lives there, and it's so gorgeous. Where are you now? Where are you based now?
I'm in Heathcote now. So I've moved, so regional, sort of halfway between Melbourne and Bendigo. It's still accessible to the city, but still quiet enough to give me that sort of peace that I like to have when you switch off at 5:30 at night. You know, it's a really lovely place to wake up every morning.
And I can relate. I think we go full circle, a lot of us, right? Like I'm in the country now as well. Did you grow up on the land? Like was it agricultural or hobby farm?
funnily enough, my parents owned a pub in Alexandra.
Oh,
So I grew up in a pub. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. But still, that freedom of after school and on weekends, just riding your bike around everywhere. I've got these really fond memories of sitting on this massive hill behind the football oval in Alex, where I would just sit there and view for days. And that I've got this dream of one day having view for days. I want to wake up and no neighbours next door, just rolling mountains and views. And I think it takes me back to that sort of peaceful, tranquil moments that I had when I was younger. I just love space and, that peace and quiet.
We just seem to be on a similar journey,
I
Vicki.
know we are. We've done all of the crazy party stuff, living in the city and everything. Now it's time to just calm down and be at peace.
Right? And I can remember being a teenager and just thinking the city was Mecca and I couldn't wait. And I left home really, really young and moved into a really dodgy share house in the city and Sydney. And I just kind of look back and just go, oh my God, I'm just so happy here in the country, right?
100%. It's the funniest feeling. I lived in, on St Kilda Road, Paran, in Sydney, right, in Surrey Hills, in Darlinghurst, in Balmain. I've done all of those inner city sort of locations. It wasn't until I moved here about 4 years ago that I went, I'm home. Like and I didn't realize how much I didn't feel at home in the past. I thought that that was what, was the corporate life and that's what you did. But you can have the best of both worlds now, which is really great.
And that's the benefit of COVID, right? Like we appreciate that you can commute and 2-hour journey each way for me. And I think it's pretty similar with Heathcote if you're going to Melbourne. I mean, it's doable, but the benefits outweigh the, sometimes annoyance of the travel, right? Did you go to school in... did you do your high school in the country?
Yeah, so I did high school. I started in Alexandra and then I finished high school in Melbourne. So I sort of went between two schools. I was never really much of a student, though. I didn't learn from sitting there and reading books and watching what the teacher wrote down on the blackboard or whatever the case may be. I'm a doer. That's how I sort of learned things. So I never really got into the whole education thing.
I relate. I totally relate. I totally relate. And you're probably like me as well. Like, I mean, we're smart people, right? But it's that practicality rather than the academic side, right? Like it's
100%.
In the weeds and actually living. And I think, people joke about that on things like Tinder about university of life, but I think there's actually something there, right?
There's merit in that for sure. I mean, I reckon my daughter's very similar. So I just actually had her parent-teacher interview on Friday, and the thing was they were saying she's got incredible EQ. She can have a discussion with the teachers and you think to yourself, oh, my goodness, is this child only 10? But when it comes to putting pen down onto paper or retaining information about, spelling words or maths or something like that, it just doesn't come naturally to her, and it never did with me either. But understanding kind of what I've learned and where I'm at in my career now, not worried at all. I know that she's going to be absolutely fine. It's that EQ, IQ thing. What is more important, like it's equally, I think, important in the real world.
And what was your very first job? Like, did you, I deferred university, really similar to you. I just wanted to, start living life, right?
Yeah.
Did you go straight into the workforce after high school?
Yeah. So my first job was a dental nurse.
Oh, wow. I can see that, actually. Yeah,
can you see that? Yeah. So Mum said to me, if you're not going to go to university and you're going to live under this roof, you need to get yourself a job. I'm not going to pay for you for, the rest of your life. So I went through the newspaper. Back then, it was 1997. I finished school in 1996. I'm going through the newspaper and there was a job for a dental nurse, and they gave you on-the-job training, plus they paid for you to do your certificate in dental assisting at RMIT. So I thought, oh, well, I'll give that a go. Went for the interview, got the job. So I was pretty lucky. And it was interesting. I did that for 3 years. I got the qualifications. Effectively, it just paid for my weekends. Like, it was not by any stretch, it was not going to be what I'm doing for the rest of my life. But I did think this is a pretty universal job. So if I want to go traveling, I could do this anywhere in the world. I could move regionally and live back in the country and still be able to do this as a job. So that was sort of my thought pattern behind it. But it was interesting. I would often spend a lot of time. So there was 2 dental nurses, and when you finished assisting one patient, you would then go and wash up everything from that patient, and then the next nurse would bring in the next patient, and then you had time to just, have a coffee or whatever. I would go straight for the waiting room where all the other patients are and sit there and talk to them, because that's just me. I love talking to people and getting to know people and everything. So one day I was in there, and the patient I was talking to said, "Have you ever considered getting into recruitment?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Do you like your job?" And I'm like, "Well, not really. I mean, people are just lying there with their mouths open all the time. I can't really talk to them, can I?" He said, "Why don't you come and apply for a job to work with me?" And I went for a job as a resourcer with Icon Recruitment, and I got the job. And that started my recruitment career, and that was in 2000, I think, 1999, 2000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So sitting there in the waiting room, right, and someone had thrown this idea of recruitment out there. You hadn't really thought of it. Based on that conversation and the subsequent conversations, what was it that made you go, "Do you know what? Like, this could be the career path for me"? Like, what did you think it was?
Well, I am passionate about helping people. It's in my DNA. If I see somebody on the street that's hardly done by, I will make sure that they're okay. I love to help, children and my family and everyone. So I like helping people. So the fact that I could talk to people day in, day out and get to know them and meet interesting people, I was passionate about helping those people out. And I'm fairly driven when it comes to, like, I'm quite competitive. I like to win. So there was a sales element to it as well. It just married together all of the things that I love doing. So, and as I started doing it, and I realized how amazing it felt to be able to find people, like, work with a client, understand their requirements and match them with a candidate and helping that candidate find work. For me, it just ticked every single box. And I loved the people that I worked with. In any organisation that I've worked with in recruitment or the workforce management, is obviously with contractor management, it's not quite recruitment, but it is still those HR services. I've just met the most amazing people. So I think that for me, it was just every box was ticked. And there was a real opportunity. You could go internal recruitment, you could go into HR, you could go into the sales side of it. And I think the fact that there was all those different angles, for me, it opened up opportunity. And I always did, though, levitate to the sales side. I like to sell. And when I'm passionate about something, it just comes out naturally. So, yeah, I guess that's what sort of drew me in and kept me going.
Gosh, they would have loved you, like the BD recruiters. Hello.
A recruiter that loves selling.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like the agency dream. But there's we romanticize in those early days that we're going to move into, recruitment, and we're going to help people find their dream jobs. And I think, when we hit the tools, the reality can be quite different. And it can be quite brutal. Like, did the reality meet your expectations when you did hit the tools?
Yeah, I think that you're right. The market obviously changes a lot. So there's lots of things that impact, obviously, recruitment. And that is like the economic climate, there's changes in legislation, those sorts of things. And you start to realize you have to have a level of resilience, because it's peaks and flows. I think, well, we often call recruitment a bit of a roller coaster ride, and that's a term that's thrown around all the time. It is 100% correct. There are times where it's so flat and so low, you think to yourself, oh my God, what am I doing? But when the highs come, they're so high. So I think understanding the trends in the market's really, really important. You've got to understand that with every peak, with every trough comes a peak as well. And having that level of resilience. In terms of meeting expectations, I think you've got to have those realistic expectations. Things aren't always going to be great all the time. If they were, you wouldn't appreciate them as much as you do as having those difficult times as well. So it's just aligning your expectations to suit I guess where the market's at and what the industry sort of entails. That's I guess what I've learned over the years.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's interesting. It's where the name Rubber Band came from as well. What you describe is that we're stretched so far and it can be so challenging and we're pulled in all directions and it's stressful and the market it fluctuates and then boom, everything bounces back. It's like stretched elastic bands and then we recover. It's interesting. I don't think there's anything like recruitment. I think if you're someone like you that naturally gravitated to it, hit the tools and were really successful and enjoyed the pace and the sales, it never leaves you. You just fall in love, right? You really do.
100%. Yeah. And I think that's so right. Like you've got to I didn't realize the rubber band analogy, but that sort of makes complete sense to me now. You get stretched and stretched and stretched and stretched, and then bang, it comes back at some point. And I think we wouldn't have built the level of resilience we did over COVID if we hadn't gone through everything we've been through. Like I've worked through the Y2K. That was huge when I first started recruitment, and then there was the GFC and all of that sort of stuff. Massive, working in the contractor management industry, massive changes to loads of different legislation, in particular immigration legislation, and everyone thought, oh my God, this is it. Contractor management organizations are just going to lose it because they're not going to be able to sponsor people the way that they used to. But then it created an opportunity because all of a sudden you had to have these direct relationships with corporate organizations. So less of our business was coming from recruitment agencies and more was coming from corporate. So you got to take every situation and create an opportunity out of it, I think.
And then you've moved into contingent. I know that's where you specialize now. Walk me through your career from starting the agency recruitment role and then how this specialization came about for you and why you're so passionate about it.
Yeah. So after I was at Icon Recruitment for a couple of years, I got approached from the directors of Entity Solutions at the time about doing a role for them in Sydney. They just opened up their Sydney office. I'd spoken to them about, wanting to move to Sydney. And so I moved up there to manage their contractors, basically manage those relationships. And that's when it first started. So that was, I think, 2002 at the time. And I just became very passionate very quickly about the non-permanent workforce. It was, I feel like, and we've spoken about this before, about it being the forgotten workforce. So what would happen is, people would choose this as a profession. This is a way of life. This is how they wanted to work in a flexible arrangement. They want to go and obtain some skills from one organization, then move on and then and obtain skills from another organization, be able to have that flexibility to keep moving and learning. But it was sort of not a favorable mode of engagement, if you'd like. And I love the fast-paced nature of contingent. I love that it allows people flexibility. It allows people to, develop their skills in different organizations. And I loved the fact that at that time we were providing a solution for that workforce as well, which wasn't the most common, workforce. People were favoring permanent. So I was at Entity for, I think it was 11 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So at the end, I was at one of the executive directors. So I was executive director for customer and sales. And I think at that time, I was the only female on the in the executive team as well. So I loved having that, being able to give that representation in what was largely a male-dominated kind of industry. I loved being able to do that for the company. It was difficult because I think a part of it was that I maybe have just was a bit of a tick box. So my opinion wasn't always considered, but it did allow me to be a little bit more forceful with my opinion and be things that I truly believed in. When I would go into those meetings, I would have to bring evidence or an argument as to why I believed in that. And that sort of helped me develop a little bit more as a more senior professional. After I left Entity, I fell pregnant with my daughter. And I returned to the workforce working for a company called Pay Partners, which again was a similar contingent workforce management. And that returning to the workforce after having a baby, now I know it's probably more commonly spoken about now, but then I found that really, really hard. Returning, and did I actually know a lot about what I was doing? Was I good at what I did, or was I just in that business that, like, with Entity for so long that I just knew it really well? And you start to second guess yourself returning to the workforce. But I was lucky because I was in a role that was incredibly flexible. And I was working directly for the owner, Paul McNally, who owned Info People, also owned Pay Partners. And he was very supportive of me. So it gave me the freedom to kind of make some mistakes and learn to adjust back to the workforce without being, hugely criticised. Post Pay Partners, I went to a deco and I was working, designing sort of more those larger scale national solutions, RPO, MSP. And that's where I really found my passion. I loved the combination of working in the contingent space, but also on the talent side of things. So being able to identify, whether it be an MSP solution or an embedded sort of sourcing solution, I love being able to combine both the contingent and the recruitment side of things, which is why this role now that I'm in at CXC is so perfect for me.
Yeah, so tell me about your role with CXC, because it is, right? Like it's everything you've summarised, which is fab. Like you found where you want to live. You found the right role. Right?
Yes, I have. I feel like I work with my family every day. It is an incredible environment to be a part of. So I've always admired CXC from afar because I've been up against them as a competitor in the past. Darren, who is my boss, incredibly supportive. He was actually a client of Entity back in the days when I was in Sydney. So I knew him from then. I knew a few people at CXC. So this role that I'm in at the moment is Head of Talent Solutions. So aside from our core side of the business, which is the contractor management, payroll, EOR, AOR sort of solutions, this role is I guess looking at working with clients to provide more of that pre-identification piece, whether it be whether it be like an MSP and a direct sourcing solution, or whether it be we've got recruiter on demand services as well, anything that sort of brings in the kind of identification of talent and understanding what the best sort of way of attracting and retaining talent is, but in the contingent space. So I've got an amazing team that work with me. Miriam, who you've done a podcast with before.
Miriam.
She's one of my most favourite people in the world. Nat, who's managing one of our programs, and Corey, who you've spoken with as well, another one of our programs. I've got just such an amazing team. So we're now, we've got some great MSP programs. We've got a really strong direct sourcing function that we offer clients from a contingent perspective. We've got a couple of our recruiter on demand solutions as well. And we've also got a solution called Workforce Exchange, which is effectively the contractors that we've been payrolling with other clients. Once they're done and they are not going to be extended, we pop them into a talent community and we try to redeploy them in with other clients as well. So it's sort of that kind of zero wastage of talent, if you'd like, and being able to, keep using our good talent in our community.
Because that's the hard part. Like there are conversations, still happening at the moment that, that we're moving more towards a gig workforce and that's why people want to work. But then we have the uncertain economic climate at the moment, and all of our mortgages went up, right? And high cost of living and all of that going on. So I think what I love about, and I know what I love about CXC is that you do provide that service where people who are doing gig work or contingent work have some certainty that, that they will find the next role.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that was the aim. So actually the workforce exchange solution came about from a survey that we did with our contractors that said, we think CXC are amazing. We love you guys. Pay's always on time. It would be great if you could also help us find work. And then when we surveyed our clients, they said, we love CXC. You always pay our contracts on time. It would be great if you could help us find talent as well. And that's where we went, you know what? We have all these people rolling. We onboard about 10,000 people a year. Contractors a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we've only got at any given time probably about 4,000 working or 5,000 working. So that other 5,000 or 6,000 are just rolling off and going into a big black hole. Why can't we try and leverage the fact that we've already got this relationship with them? We've got all the details set up. It's just about introducing them in to find new work. It helps the client access talent quickly because we're getting notified of them before they actually come off assignment. We know that they're going to be available and before they hit the market and start working. But we also we know that they're good. We know that they've done a good job because they've worked through us before and we've got that feedback from the client. So it's just like a win-win situation.
It's amazing. I love it, right? And it is. It's future-proofing. It flows with the economy. It flows with the trends. It can scale up, it can scale down. But I just think 100%. It's fab. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm a big fan. So, Vicki, what have been some of the biggest lessons you've learned over the years?
I think the resilience piece, I was thinking about this on the weekend actually in preparation, and I know I've already mentioned it, but that resilience piece of the market changing so much. So as I was saying, work through Y2K, where it was just like the world's going to come to an end tomorrow and we need all these people and it being like, that was a great time to be in recruitment, right? You've just got to recruit all of these roles in preparation for something you didn't even know if it was going to happen or not. And then and then GFC and then COVID and all of that sort of stuff. The market changes all the time. Legislation changes all the time. I think when I first started working at Entity, we're probably looking at like 95% of the market being permanent and 5% being contingent. We're probably sitting at about 70-30 now. The US are 50-50.
Wow.
50% of the workforce in the US is non-permanent, whether it be casual gig. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so much is changing all the time. It can impact your job negatively. It can impact it positively. As I was saying, like great time to be in recruitment, Y2K, not so good during the GFC. But that resilience piece, it's really, really, it helps you start to think, well, okay, this isn't going to work. The way that I've done things in the past is not going to work because the market's different. We need to change things up and do things a little bit differently, create an opportunity. So I think that's been the biggest thing for me, and that's what I've learned is when things impact your job negatively, it's not, okay, that's it, I'm out, I don't know what else to do here. It's digging into your toolkit and finding new ways of being able to create opportunities. And the resilience in the market and the ups and downs has helped me in my personal life as well. When things happen, doesn't affect me as much as it probably did in the past. And I think that's been huge for me.
Yeah, agreed. And it's one of my biggest lessons, resilience as well. It's an industry where you just need to go with the flow.
Yes, exactly.
You really do. And you need to be that rubber band and know that it's going to bounce back, right? And we've just got to be that human and
keep bouncing back.
Yeah, bounce, bounce,
Mm.
bounce. There we
Yeah.
go. So tell
Love
me,
it.
and I think we've summarized it a lot, but tell me, just in life, what are you and work? What are you most passionate about, Vicki?
Well, I think I mentioned it before. I'm passionate about helping people. I always have been. So one of the things that I've done more recently since I've moved to the country is I have joined the netball club. I was playing, but my body doesn't pull up as well as it used to anymore. So I had to stop at the ripe old age of 46. It was time to hang up the netty boots. But I've started coaching kids. So I this year did the 13 and unders, and I love being able to help the children develop their skills, but more than anything, their confidence. So I think that 13 and under is a really pivotal age. It's where, you're changing from being a little kid and you're starting to get those teenager kind of hormones and stuff like that. And I think that it's been amazing working with the children to develop out their confidence. I say children because I've got one boy in my team and he's amazing as well.
Yeah.
And I think, being able to develop their confidence, develop their skills, watch them succeed, that sort of thing is really makes me feel good. It's what gives me the heart flutters and, helps me sleep well at night knowing I'm giving back to the community. I'm passionate about my daughter, obviously. She's my reason for being. But I think that, helping people, helping children, being able to impart knowledge and provide support, that's just something that I'm really passionate about.
Oh, you're awesome, Vicki. You really are. Really are. Well, I've just got one last question for you.
Mhm.
What would be your final piece of advice to anyone who's either working in recruitment or maybe, we have a lot of listeners that
Yeah.
jump in because they're considering a career in recruitment,
Yeah.
either way. Yeah. What's your final piece of advice, Vicki?
Well, I think if you are in recruitment, then I think you've obviously got some level of interest, and I think you've got to don't let those difficult times sort of deter you. Keep persisting with it. It is an incredibly rewarding industry and occupation to be in. And then, as I said before, there's so many different ways you can go with it. It doesn't just have to be actually doing recruitment. It could be, like in my situation, selling the solutions to organizations that want to enhance their internal recruitment model, or it could be, selling recruitment services. If you're looking to get into it, I think it's a brilliant base to start with. And you can either develop out which way you want to go with it, whether it be an internal role, an agency role, a sales role, or it could be a base to help get you into the next part of your career as well. I've just learnt so much from having conversations with people, client level, contractor level, people that I worked with. And people love talking about themselves. So ask questions and listen to their answers. And that will give you the information to be able to support them to find the right role or to find the right candidate for the role. So I think ask lots of questions, listen to the answers, and it would be an incredible way to start your career.
Oh, great advice, Vicki. Thank you so much for being our first guest for season 4. I knew it would be brilliant.
No
You didn't let me
worries.
down.
Oh, good. I'm glad. And thank you so much for all of your support as well. We love Rubber Band and the community. It's been an amazing partnership. We love it.
Oh, we love you too. Thank you so much, Vicki, and enjoy that country air. Have an amazing afternoon.
Thanks, Eden.
Bye.